Welcome to the weekly shir of the Zera Shimshon. This is becoming bi-weekly, but not my fault because last week was my Dasi's wedding to Chaim Tzvi Adler of Cleveland. Baruch Hashem, they got married and they're living in Cleveland. So today is Tes Zayin, Mar Cheshvan. This is Erev Shabbos, and I'm going to do a short one because I'm rather cut for time here. As Hashem will be back in Israel next week. So this is Hey in Parshat Vayeira. The pasuk says, "Vayomer elav aye Sara ishtecho." It's brought in the Midrash. Eviu gam Rashi b'Chumash. Nakud al ayoy. The nakudas are on the letters Aleph, Yud, and Vav. Leimer she'af l'Sara shalei. Aye Avram. So even they asked Sarah, how is Abraham? This is a little strange because Kasha, Ma'alohem l'malachim l'shol b'shvil b'Avram. What did the malachim have to ask about Abraham for? They were talking to him. The bishlim b'shvil Sarah nicha. It's good according to Sarah because it's good. The Gemara in Bava Metzia says in Pei Zayin Omid Aleph, Lo hidiya shetznuah haisa. It was to teach us that she was a very modest person in the tent. Or another Torah says that they were going to send her the kaisha bracha after they bench. But Avram, what do they have to ask about him? Especially asking Sarah about Avraham. The rule in the Gemara there, it says that you don't ask about the well-being of the woman, only through the husband. They shouldn't have been speaking a lot at all about her to her without any necessity. It's a Mishnah and Pirkei Avos. Since they were malachim, they knew where about Avram. It's not midas derech eretz to do this. So he was busy with making a meal for them. It's interesting teretz that since the angels don't have a Yetzirah, there's no prohibition for them to speak with a woman. Shahari Matzino Medavar Im Hagar, Shadibra Im Hagar, he space, and later on in the Parshat that the angel spoke with Hagar, Im Eshes Manoach, and they spoke with the wife of Manoach. Afo Pisha Hayom Hamalach Yochel Hamtim, even though the Malach could have waited till Manoach got there, and but Pama Shenis, even the second time he appeared, the angel appeared to Eshes Manoach. It says, he appeared to her without her husband being there. He didn't wait. And they asked, this is what they did the time when Avram was distant. Because he ran after the cow all the way to Maras HaMachpelah. Okay, since it's not for midas derech eretz that they shouldn't ask on him. Since he delayed a long time to come back. Mikol shekin sheim loy hayu shoyalim mimah tachshoiv Sarah bedaita sheim malachim sheyedim heichanu, and they were asking what was Sarah to think in her mind that the malachim knew where Avram was, and mishum hachi einam yisholim alav, and for that they weren't asking about him. Therefore, they asked her, "How's bivadei she'amru lo she'ein tzarich lekol kach toich lehechin lohem tzarich esuda?" So they asked her, "Why is he bothering so much for us to make such a big deal out of a suda?" They only needed to have a little bit to eat. They'll be satisfied with very little. Omnam le'Avraham lo haisa lehem siba mechrachas lishol Sarah. But for Avraham, there's no reason they should have forced him to ask about Sarah. Im lo yida haidia shet sanua haisa oikadei l'shager la'kais shabracha. Or they should be asking about her for no other reason that to show how modest she was. She was in the tent. She didn't come and start speaking with the angels or the guests. She didn't know they were angels, maybe. Or to send her the kais shel bracha. All right, now we have a little. My name is Rafi Lerner. Here's a segula from Rabbi the Zera Shimshon. I read about the Sefer Zera Shimshon in a story written by Nachman Seltzer. This is the book, right? The story piqued my interest, and I wanted to buy the Sefer and to learn it on a regular basis. I contacted you to ask you if I could come over to your house and buy a copy. You advised me to contact your children in Lakewood and to pick up a copy from them. The moment I purchased the Sefer, I began learning from it in a serious way, as I would any Chashuvah Sefer that I bought. Of course, with the Zera Shimshon, there was the added benefit of the beautiful introduction and the words that were written by the Mechaber himself in the beginning of the Sefer that promised Yeshuas. I had been learning the Zera Shimshon for a week when I decided to summon my courage to ask my boss for a raise. This wasn't the first time I asked for a raise, but every time I did, my boss explained to me that it wasn't a good time, and that as much as they valued my dedication to the job and the good atmosphere and the work ethic that I brought to the company, they were still unable to increase my salary. This happened over and over for a number of years. I'd ask, and they'd return me down. It reached a point to where I didn't feel at all comfortable making the same request again. That now that I was learning from the Zera Shimshon, I decided that it was the perfect time to try again. Instead of knocking on my boss's door, I sat down at my desk and drafted a respectful letter, in which I laid out exactly why I felt the time had finally come for them to give me a raise I had been requesting for so long. Dear Sir, here's the letter. Having been a loyal employee in the firm for quite some time, I feel that my presence has brought benefit to the company for many reasons and in many areas. I expounded on my experience and the fact that I was willing to assist another worker if they needed advice, and I listed a few examples of times that my intention to detail saved the company considerable sums of money. As much as I enjoy being a member of the team, I do feel that the time has come for me to request a raise. My family has, Baruch Hashem, grown over the years, and my salary is no longer sufficient for our needs. Please consider my request and help me remain with the company so that we may benefit from one another for many years to come. Sincerely yours, Rafi Lerner. I know that what I'm about to tell you sounds like one of those stories, from Zera Shimshon stories, okay? But what can I do if that's what's happened? Immediately after receiving my letter, my boss called me into his office. Rafi, I read your letter and I have to tell you that you are 100% correct. You have been here for quite a while, and there's no question that you have benefited the firm in countless ways. I'm giving you an immediately bonus of a few $1,000s, and I'll be raising your salary as well. As I returned to my desk, heart swelling with thanks to the Rebbeinu Shalom, I couldn't help but recall that the Sefer at the side of my desk, the Sefer that I'd begun learning barely a week earlier, and the words of Rabbi Shimshon Nachmani, who wrote, "The house filled with everything good, and wealth and honor." There is no question in my mind that there was a connection between what was happening in my workplace and the newest Sefer on my shelf. A few weeks passed, and I decided that I wanted to surprise my father and purchase a copy of the Zera Shimshon for him as well. I told my father everything that happened at the office and how I suddenly had been on the receiving end of a raise after years of asking and being turned down. It might be a good idea for you to learn the Sefer Zera Shimshon with Shani in mind, I told him. My father began learning that Sefer that week. What can I say? A few days later, 3 Shadchanim called the house with ideas for my sister after months of silence. Rabbi Binyamin, there is no question in my mind that Klal Yisrael must be told about the Sefer and the Yeshuas that people are witnessing on a daily basis after learning its holy words. Everybody have a wonderful Shabbos, and Bez Hashem will have this broadcast from next week from Eretz Yisrael. Kol Tov.